So let's say that you've listened to the first two videos and you've explored this Canvas shell a little bit. For instance, over here on the left, you've clicked on Calendar. I personally don't use that version of the calendar, but some people like it. You could click on Inbox, which is kind of Canvas's sort of email-like system. You could try different things. You could explore. Say you've done that and you're getting ready to do some work because you know that Math 89 is going to be some work. And what do you do? Well, it might be a good idea to figure out, if you can, what's going to be addressed. So you could click on Modules, and it looks like Assignment 1 Solutions is 5.1 through 5.4, and Assignment 2 Solutions is 5.6 through 5.8 and 6.1. This tells you what kind of sections we're going to be covering in our class, and so it looks like Section 5.1 is the first thing that we're going to do. So, what should we do? Well, let's go into My Math Lab and Mastering. Now, this is not the first time. The first time you had to order stuff. The second time you go in, it should just take you in to the My Math Lab website. Once you're there, there's lots of things you could do, but I would suggest that the library is probably one of the best places to go. Assignments is another option. And in the library, you can choose the textbook if you want to actually view our textbook and get involved with it. We'll do that in the next video. But here, I would like us to learn how to go to class. You see, if you start working on the software problems before you go to class, you are trying to do math homework without attending class. And that could work for a very few people, almost nobody. It does work for some people if it's a review class. And Chapter 5 is review for a lot of you, so it could possibly work, but it is a really, really, really good idea to go to class. And the easiest way to go to class is these section video lectures and Find Now. Now, I could have narrowed it down to Chapter 5 and Section 1, but I wanted to show you that they're all there. And so we're going to go to 5.1 and we're going to click on it. And I'm going to go to the point objective. I'm going to maximize it. Most of that will fit on my screen, not quite all of it. So I guess I'm going to not maximize it right now. But you could click on it.
Introduction to Factoring. Factoring monomials. The essentials. To factor a polynomial is to find an equivalent expression that is a product. To factor a monomial, we find monomials whose product is equivalent to the original monomial. Example 1. Find 3 factorizations of the opposite of 12a cubed. There are many factorizations possible. Let's look at 3 possible factorizations of this monomial. One factorization is the opposite of 3a times 4a squared. Another factorization is 6a squared.
So I can't emphasize enough that this idea of going to class before you start working on the problems is important. It's important for so many reasons. I'm not going to go into all of them, but the main one is that almost nobody can learn math by simply working on problems. If you were that kind of person, you would know it by now. Almost nobody can. Almost everybody needs a teacher, and that is your teacher. That's the time that you're supposed to spend doing those videos. Skip it at your own peril. So now, how do we get to assignments? How do we get to the software assignment? Well, we can click on assignments. You know that you could also get there by syllabus if you have remembered the first video, but we could go to assignment 1 and we could click on it in assignments, and it's going to take us to My Math Lab. And I suppose the right thing to do here, I'm pretty sure, is to try question 1 first. And question 1 has some stuff here. Notice this up here in the left corner, 5.1.19. That means this problem is like problem 19 in section 5.1 in the textbook. That code can save you a lot of time and a lot of grief. So, to emphasize that point, I would like to go back and choose problem 7. Normally you would do these in order, of course, but I'm choosing problem 7 on purpose. Problem 7 is a lot like problem 31 in 5.1, but problem 31 in 5.1 is the very first book problem. I'll describe the book homework problems in the next section, but suffice it to say the software problems you do in MyMathLab, it records your grade, it transfers your grade to Canvas. If you fix your work, then it'll transfer the new grade to Canvas. You don't have to worry about anything as long as the due date and time hasn't expired. Once the due date's over, your Canvas software score is fixed. But then you do book problems. Book problems are a smaller group of problems. They're a subset of the software problems. And that means that, for the most part, that each book problem is very similar to one of the software problems. So our first book problem is very similar to this software problem, problem number 7 of 58. So, all right, that'll be explained a little more in the next video. What do you do once you're here? Well, you could actually just click on the box down here and put in an answer. But let's say you're confused, and maybe you are. You could do help me solve this, in which case it will take you through the steps of solving this problem. And then to get credit for this problem, you'd have to do a different one like it. You can view an example, which they take you through an example of this kind of problem, and then you can come back and do this one. You can check out some video instruction if you've forgotten the video or if you never listened to the video. Some of these problems have a little snippet of the video that helps you with this problem. If you're old school, you could click on textbook and it would take you to the textbook, and you could actually read the textbook and look at examples from the textbook, which takes me back 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years, but probably not. Ask My Instructor, I left it on there, but please don't use it very often. The best way is to email me directly. The Ask My Instructor thing, for an emergency you can do it, but I've had some cases where I don't get it right away. It gets hung up in the system and students start to wonder why I'm not responding. And you can try it, and if I see it, I'll gladly respond, but I would use these others before I would use this, and I would email me directly. You can print this out. Now, you can also do Skill Builder. What Skill Builder does is it says, okay, time out. We're going to work on some lesser problems that help you build the skills for the problem you're on. And so you can go there and you can build the skills on easier problems, and then you can go back and return to the homework problem, and you can continue working on the homework problem. It's very, very, very interesting idea. So you have all these helps, in addition to which you could get help from a friend, you could get help from a tutor, you could get help from a family member, you could get help from the teacher, you could get help lots of different ways online. There's all different kinds of ways to get help. If you're graphing, you could use Desmos, etc., etc., etc. However, the best thing to do when you get all that help is to make sure that you've actually done the software problem. So there's nothing stopping you from, if somebody does this problem for you, there's nothing stopping you from doing the problem again. You really ought to take the time to do the problems yourself. And when it comes to the book problems, like this problem 31, you are supposed to do it with pencil and paper in your own writing, and you're supposed to show all the steps, all the work, or there will be no credit. It's your best work. Never let anyone help you with the book problem, the one that's like this problem 31. You can get all the help you want on software. It's a good idea to actually do the final problem in software on your own. But once it becomes a book problem in the next video, those you don't get help on at all. So now let's take a look at how this actually works. If you click down here, well, now all of a sudden a bunch of stuff happens. This is kind of important. So let's say that you want to type in a number and you're not sure should you use these templates down here. Well, notice there's more templates. And the rule that I sort of have is if it's one of these templates, use the template. If it's not one of these templates, do whatever you want. So I think that we need to pull a number out of 55 and 121 and 25. But that number seems to be just 1, just a minus sign or a -1. And so I'm going to pull out a minus sign by pressing a minus sign. And then I'm going to have parentheses. Well, not yet. I don't need parentheses yet. I'm going to pull out 2 x's, an x squared. So I type an x. But I better use this template, this third box over. And it says superscript, and that'll be an exponent of 2. This takes a little getting practice. Now I'm going to press the right arrow on my keyboard, and then I'm going to put in parentheses because I don't see any parentheses down here in the templates. If there were parentheses down there, I would be tempted to use them. Now I'm pulling a minus x squared out of each of these, so I'm going to have a 55 x to the 4th power, and I'm using that template and right arrow to bring it down. Tab, I think, sometimes works there too. Now I'm bringing out a minus x squared, so I'm going to have minus 121 x squared. And I'm using that template again and the arrow key. And then I'm pulling out a minus x squared, so I'm going to have plus 25. So now I have plus 25, ending parentheses, and I don't know, I'm going to click on check answer down here. And it says, good job, next question. And I've done it correctly. All right. So that's excellent. That's a pretty good example. And that will also be a book problem. I could do the book problem right now if I was organized while it was fresh in my mind. Some students do that. But also some students wait a little while, do the software first, and then when they go through and do the book problems, they kind of have a chance to build their memory by waiting a little while and then doing it to see if they remember it. All right.